Colonel David Hackworth wrote about one of his soldiers in his book About Face, a soldier named Private Henry C. DeBoer. This was during the Korean War, and this soldier had not earned the best reputation. He consistently tried to avoid combat, often going to sick call before dangerous missions and missing out on those missions. But during one operation on the 6th of February, 1951, DeBoer was with his platoon on an operation, and he got shot on an open, iced-over rice paddy. And Hackworth, who was a sergeant at the time, saw him lying there exposed and ran out to get him. And Hackworth writes this in his book, quote, "Now DeBoer was ashen-faced, hit in the chest or gut. I don't know. There was a lot of blood, and he was well into shock. I knew he wasn't going to make it. Come on, DeBoer. You're going to be fine. You'll be all right," I said, giving him the old pep talk as I grabbed his jacket collar and started sliding him across the ice. But DeBoer said, "No, Sarge. Just leave me. You're going to get hit. Just leave me, Sarge." Then suddenly he groaned, and that was it. He was gone. I left him and ran back. DeBoer, in death, became one of the greatest heroes of our outfit. He didn't say, "Take care of me." He said, "Leave me. Take care of yourself." And when I told the other guys the story, old DeBoer became a legend in the platoon. End quote. There was no time for DeBoer to think, no time to decide. There was only time for him to try and save his friends. And that reminds me of another story. April 22nd, 2008, in the city of Ramadi, 2 Marines, Corporal Jonathan Yale, age 22, and Lance Corporal Jordan Herder, age 20. They stood their ground and saved scores of their comrades from death when a suicide truck bomb tried to drive past an entry control point, a point that was guarded by Corporal Yale and Lance Corporal Herder. The suicide bomber did not get past them. General John Kelly, United States Marine Corps, a Gold Star father himself, gave a speech about these 2 Marines. And in part of that speech, he described a security video that captured the scene. General Kelly said this: "It took exactly 6 seconds from when the truck entered the alley until it detonated. You can watch the last 6 seconds of their young lives. Putting myself in their heads, I supposed it took about a second for the 2 Marines to separately come to the same conclusion about what was going on once the truck came into their view at the far end of the alley. Exactly no time to talk it over or call the sergeant to ask what they should do. Only enough time to take half an instant and think about what the sergeant had told them to do only a few minutes before. Let no unauthorized personnel or vehicles pass." The 2 Marines had about 5 seconds left to live. It took maybe another 2 seconds for them to present their weapons, take aim, and open up. By this time, the truck was halfway through the barriers and gaining speed the whole time. Here, the recording shows a number of Iraqi police, some of whom had fired their AKs, now scattering like normal and rational men, some running right past the Marines. The Marines who now had 3 seconds left to live. For about 2 seconds more, the recording shows the Marines' weapons firing nonstop. The truck's windshield exploding into shards of glass as their rounds take it apart and tore into the body of the son of a bitch who's trying to get past them to kill their brothers, American and Iraqi, bedded down in the barracks, totally unaware of the fact that their lives at that moment depended entirely on two Marines standing their ground. If they had been aware, they would have known they were safe, because two Marines stood between them and a crazed suicide bomber. The recording shows the truck careening to a stop immediately in front of the two Marines. In all of the instantaneous violence, Yale and Herder never hesitated. By all reports and by the recording, they never stepped back. They never even started to step aside. They never even shifted their weight. With their feet spread shoulder width apart, they leaned into the danger, firing as fast as they could work their weapons. They had only 1 second left to live. 6 seconds in total. Not enough time to think about their families, their country, their flag, or about their lives or their deaths. But more than enough time for two very brave young men to do their duty into eternity. That is the kind of people who are on watch all over the world tonight for you. They did their duty. They held the line. They protected their friends. And we can get a glimpse into their mindset from another serviceman. A soldier from Charlie Company, 4th Battalion, 31st Infantry. Sergeant First Class Marshall Robertson. He had served about 10 months in Vietnam and was sent to the rear to finish out his tour. But his company suffered significant casualties after he left. His company commander was hit, and he knew his troops needed him. So he volunteered to go back to the front with his men. And he wrote this letter on August 20th, 1969. Quote, "My dear darling, honey, I love you so much. I'm writing this letter at 8:30 p.m. tonight, for I want you to know how I feel about you. For you see, this might very well be my last letter. I know you will not understand or be able to understand what or why I'm doing, but I've got to do it. You see, my company went in to relieve Bravo Company, where they had 27 men killed in 2 days. Well, now my company is taking a beating. Captain Murphy, my company commander, has been hit in both legs, and I am going out at 4:30 in the morning. Now I know what you are thinking, that I have too much to live for. Well, that's very true. But there are some times in a man's life when he must do what he must. Honey, please forgive me for this, but my men have a brand new officer. I just have to go out there and help them. I know that you will not understand, but please try to see my side of it. My love, if I should die over here, It will not be for my country or this country. It will be for my boys. Please tell the kiddies that I love them. And if this is my last letter, please remember me. Whatever happens, I love you. Marshall Robertson, 33 years old, father of 4, loyal husband, was killed 6 days after writing that letter on August 26, 1969, while maneuvering to get to a wounded comrade. And these are but a few stories of a few men. I also knew some brave men that stood up and faced death to do their duty and protect their friends. Men like Mark Lee, Mikey Mansour, and Ryan Job. Men who, in leaving their mortal forms of this life, became immortal. Immortal in our memories, immortal in our history, and immortal in their example. And in their actions, they joined the vast ranks of our fallen heroes. Heroes who number in the hundreds of thousands, but who are not just numbers. They were husbands, fathers, and sons, wives, mothers, and daughters. They were people with dreams and ambitions and futures. All who had, like Marshall Robertson, so much to live for. But they volunteered. They volunteered to go into the fray. They volunteered to defend us. They volunteered to protect us. And in the moment of truth, they stood their ground and did their duty to the utmost into eternity. And now, it is our modest, but our most important and solemn duty to memorialize them on this day and every day by living to honor them in our thoughts, words, and deeds, and by always and eternally remembering their sacrifice. They are our heroes, and we must never forget them.